What's good, man? MMA fighters that needed facial surgery after a fight.
Are no strangers
About to see,
time
man.
in hospitals
They about to
after
be
a
looking crazy.
fight, whether they win or not. And these headlines are some of the most common in sports, and sometimes the injuries are so gruesome that fights
Wow, dude, whole lip split. That's crazy.
stop.
But he did. But he got punched or something. He punched his lip.
Fighters are rushed to the emergency room. The solution is reconstructive
That's crazy.
surgery, and boxers have been getting it since the 1970s. Here are all the times that MMA fighters had to go under the knife to get reconstructive surgery. First up, we have Nick Diaz. It can take MMA fighters years to get to the top. Thousands of hours spent sparring and training, all accumulating to a short, brutal chance at glory. In 2007, Nick Diaz had his chance taken away from him. The title fight was stopped due to excessive bleeding from his eyes. Referees were worried that it might affect his vision. Diaz was about to let a cut above the eye stop him from getting another shot at the title. He consulted a plastic surgeon and underwent surgery to replace the scar tissue around his eyes with collagen taken from cadaver skin. Some of us might think that's a bit extreme, but Diaz won his next 5 fights, and his coach says that he doesn't even get cut during practice anymore. The worry of not having a fight stopped also no longer affects his performance in the ring. Next is Marcus Davis. Marcus Davis underwent the same surgical procedure as Nick Diaz. The fighter said he had
That boy eye look crazy, man.
stitches above his eyes 77 times over the course of his life, and his battered face had even affected the judge's decision and outcomes of fights against him.
He had to get in the same spot 77 times. That's crazy.
Sought out Dr. Frank Stile, the only plastic surgeon specializing in this procedure at the time. Davis had the bone structure around his eyes altered and had the skin around them replaced with collagen as well. Although the procedure has not been medically reviewed and the American Society of Plastic Surgeons has not commented on it, Davis swears by it. In a post-fight interview, he thanked Dr. Stile and said that it would not have been possible for him to have a career without his surgery. Dr. Frank Stile believes that his radical procedure is only necessary because improper treatment of MMA fighters' initial wounds leads to unstable scar tissue. Now, Paige Van Zant. When UFC strawweight Paige Van Zant was given a bare-knuckle fighting contract, many fans warned her about possibly having permanent facial scarring. Bare-knuckle fighting is an even more violent sport than traditional MMA, leaving
bare knuckle fighting.
competitors bloody after a fight, to which
Crazy.
the 125-pound, 27-year-old replied that she had a plastic surgeon on speed dial. She went on to state that she was
Got to.
athlete and a fighter foremost, not just a cute
Plastic
surgeon
surgeon?
on speed dial. She went on to state that she was an athlete and a fighter foremost, not just a cute face. Her contract would enable her to afford plastic surgery to fix any scars, and that she had been cut on her face before, and it hasn't hurt her career so far. This was a year after the MMA fighter had already undergone surgery for an arm fracture and 2 additional surgeries in 2018, including the insertion of a metal plate into the very same arm. Next on the list is George St. Pierre. Despite his long reign as the welterweight and then the middleweight UFC champion, GSP has been fairly lucky in his career injury-wise. Having only sustained minor elbow and groin injuries before, it was in training of all places where he tore his ACL right before a fight. GSP himself
Tearing it right before a fight. Did he still fight?
injury was a huge challenge for him, as he had never been catastrophically injured before. He would call his doctor 15 times a day before the surgery was scheduled. His surgery was a modern marvel of medicine in itself, receiving the best medical care in California, paid for by the UFC. His surgery was done under local anesthesia and only took 60 minutes. His doctor even said he had time to clean the knee and check for any other lesions, and perhaps it's more due to the strength of his character rather than his body, but George St. Pierre stepped into the ring again at UFC 154 only 10 months later to give us the best performance of his career against one of the most dangerous opponents in the game, Carlos Condit. Now let's look at Pearl Gonzalez next. The only fighter to make our list because of surgery she got before the fight instead of after it. Pearl Gonzalez was banned from fighting in New York because of her breast implants. According to the New York State Athletic Commission, fighters with breast implants were banned from competing due to concerns that the implants might rupture mid-fight. Not only did the commission use a bizarre rule to stop her from fighting, but they
that's their fault though. You could warn them about it. Just be like, hey, this can happen, but like, let them do it. I mean, if they want
according to the New York State Athletic Commission,
Let me see.
Gonzalez was banned from fighting in New York because of her breast implants. According to the New York State Athletic Commission, fighters with breast implants were banned from competing due to concerns that the implants might rupture mid-fight. Not only did the commission use a bizarre rule to stop her from fighting, but they also waited until the day before the fight to announce their decision, leaving both opponents waiting to find out if the fight would happen or not. Gonzalez had previously undergone a medical examination where she had been declared fit. Eventually, Gonzalez was cleared to fight by the NYSAC at UFC 210, but perhaps the ordeal took a toll on her as she suffered a loss to opponent Polyana Botelho. Next up is Ronda Rousey. Following her brutal loss,
that's really like the only female fighter, Ronda Rousey and Holly Holmes. I think that's her name, right? Yeah, that's the really
Holly
only ones
Holm
I
in
know.
2015, Ronda Rousey was seen arriving at Los Angeles Airport 3 days later trying to hide her face from reporters and fans. There is speculation that she even suffered a broken jaw during the fight in Melbourne. Later on in the Joe Rogan podcast, UFC chairman Dana White stated that there was nothing wrong with Ronda. She had just a huge cut on her lip, for which UFC flew in the top plastic surgeon in Australia right after the fight. The doctor sewed up her lip to look almost as good as new. Not just a UFC star, Ronda Rousey's also a big name in Hollywood, appearing in films such as The Fast and the Furious 7. We imagine her appearance matters more to her than the average
I got my lip. Hold up. How did that happen again? I don't remember how that happened.
fighter. Next, we have Dylan Donese. Dylan Donese, who coaches Conor McGregor and is an MMA fighter for Bellator, announced in March 2020 that he had undergone reconstructive surgery on his knee that took several hours to complete. The 26-year-old was scheduled to fight in January next year, but withdrew from the card. He was also seen at McGregor's UFC 246 weigh-in on crutches and told reporters that he needed surgery to repair his LCL and meniscus. Although Donese claims this injury to be the toughest test of his career, that remains to be seen, as he has only fought 2 times since 2018, not counting the time he made headlines for being choked to the ground by a bouncer at a bar in New Jersey. To be fair, Donese was still wearing a cast on his leg at the time. Now, Joanna Jędrzejczyk. The Polish MMA fighter looked almost like an alien after her fight with Weili
He said she looked like an alien.
in March 2020. She had a massive hematoma on her head and face, causing it to swell up to an alarming size. After spending one night in the hospital after the fight, she flew back to her home country to get plastic surgery for her injuries.
Oh yeah, that is, yeah. It's crazy bump.
That her injuries were not significant at that time. She underwent
She looked like Roger in that picture right there from Family Guy. Nah, I mean not Family Guy, American Dad. Look like Roger.
dies. After spending one night in the hospital after the fight, she
Wait,
flew back to her home country to get plastic surgery for her injuries. Her team said that her injuries were not significant at that time. She underwent medical procedures.
Hold on, am I tripping? Let's see.
For the injuries around her ear and the swelling on her forehead. The UFC fighter, however, was still keen to take on Zhang in a rematch, although both women were on a medical suspension. Given the chemistry that they have in a ring, a rematch would delight the UFC fans. Next on the list is Rafael dos Anjos. Rafael dos Anjos lost more than a title fight at UFC 225 to Colby Covington. He almost had his ear ripped off as well.
Making a change is never easy, but having Zen shipped directly to your door definitely makes it more...
Ear ripped off like
Well,
Mike.
the UFC star took to Instagram to post a picture of stitches in his ear, saying that he had fixed an old issue and that it was not the first time his ear had almost...
I know that had to hurt. Like, I could just imagine that. That part of
fallen
the ear.
off. It is speculated that Rafael dos Anjos had to get his ear stitched before the fight with Michael Bisping in October 2017 as well. But against
How
Covington,
people be getting that cauliflower ear thing? Like, that come from fighting? Or people, like, some people, like, born with that or something? I don't
it was
know.
a
I
much
think that
deeper
come from
cut,
fighting.
and plastic surgery was the only option to fix it properly and prevent the problem from happening again in the UFC octagon. The former lightweight champion also needed surgery
That
on...
look like it was, like, block your hearing a little bit, though. Got to. You could barely even see like his ear open.
This year before his fight with Islam Makhachev at UFC 267. Speaking to reporters a month before the fight, he said he was still trying to recover from the surgery, but he was a fighter and will always want to take the fight. And lastly, we have Alistair Overeem. In the main event of UFC on ESPN 7, Alistair Overeem not only got knocked out cold by Jarinzo Rosenstruik, but he also lost almost half of his lip in the process. A huge right hand left part of his lower lip dangling from his face.
You could see it happen in slow motion. You know that looked crazy. Dude,
half of his lip in the process. A huge right hand left part of his lower lip dangling from his face. The former UFC heavyweight champion had to undergo plastic surgery to literally save face. Overeem was in good spirits after the fight, however, and even questioned why the match had been stopped so early. He felt that had the fight gone on till the final bell, he would have won on total points. Did we miss any UFC fighters who've had to get surgery before or after a fight? Which one shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments.
That last one they showed was the craziest for sure. See what they say, that one flies. Like whole lip split open.